Parivachakachaya Ashtutavashata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Chanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Alle Ehre sei den versammelten Gottgeweihten. Alle Ehre den versammelten Gottgeweihten. Alle Ehre sei den versammelten Gottgeweihten. Alle Ehre sei Shishi Guru Gauranga. Alle Ehre sei Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Prajarine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Wo ist das Lesezeichen? Ich finde kein Lesezeichen. Wo ihr seid. Morgens, mittags, abends.
Das ist die Frage jetzt. Morgens, mittags, abends.
Wer war gestern in der Klasse und hat zugehört?
Ja, wir haben zugehört.
Ich glaube, da gestern wurde gar nicht vorgelesen.
Ja, gestern hat er keinen Klassenlehrer gelesen. Es war ein russischer Prediger nicht.
Dann vorgestern.
Vorgestern, ja. Auch vorgestern wurde keiner.
Ja? Da, okay, danke schön. So I suppose we speak in English. No? Alle verstehen Englisch? Super. Reading from Transcendental Diary. November 9th, 1976 in Sri Vrindavan. And we are in the Bhagavatam class, where Srila Prabhupada is talking about the 5th canto, 5th chapter, verses 21 to 22. We are in the middle of the class, stressing that life is to be found all over the universe on every planet. Prabhupada briefly related an incident from Lord Chaitanya's pastimes to show that even this vast material universe is insignificant compared to the whole of God's creation. In Brahma Samhita we understand Yasya Prabhavato Jagat Anda Koti Kotishu Ashesha Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam. This is from Brahma Samhita 540. Ashesha Vasuda Vibhuti Binam. Within the Brahma Jyoti there are innumerable Brahmandas, universes. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was requested by one of his devotees, "My Lord, You have come here to deliver the fallen souls, so kindly take them with you. And if you think that they are sinful, they cannot go with me back home, back to Godhead. So you kindly transfer all their sinful life to me. I shall suffer here. Let them go with you. This is Vaishnava, para dukkha dukhi. Vaishnava can accept all kinds of sufferings, provided others are benefited. This is a sample of Vaishnava. He is requesting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that, my Lord, you have come to deliver the fallen souls. In the material world, everyone is fallen, so you take them. And if you think they are so sinful they cannot go, then transfer their sins to me. I shall continue to suffer many lives, but you take. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased by his statement. So he replied also, he said, suppose the whole universe I take with me, then what is the loss in this material world? There are millions of universes. He compared that in a bag of mustard. If you take out one mustard, then where is the loss there? So similarly, Krishna's creation, God's creation is unlimited. That they do not understand. So, who does Srila Prabhupada mean with they? They don't understand. Who is he talking about? What do you think?
Us.
Yeah, but something more specific. Karmis? Something more specific. More specific.
Maybe impersonalists.
Impersonalists?
I don't know.
I'm going to read on and you will find out. Prabhupada says that material scientists are suffering from the logic of the frog in the well, Kupa Manduka Nyaya, who thinks that there cannot be anything bigger than the small span of water within his own well. So these rascals, those who are unaware of the potency of God, they think that God may be like me. I am so little powerful. He may be a little bit more powerful. Therefore, they cannot understand what is God, because they are thinking in their own terms. And somebody is thinking that I am God. So this misconception should be given up. And now comes another interesting topic, but I will stop here. Changes a little bit.
Materialists and technologists.
Pardon?
They are called materialists and technologists by Srila Prabhupada.
Can you say that again?
These rascals, materialists and technologists.
Materialists and
Technologists.
technologists. Okay, yeah. So, of course, he was talking about they don't understand, all of us, but more important scientists, especially scientists, impersonalists, leaders of societies who are misguiding the society, misguiding us, especially the scientists. Because here the talk is about, as we have read in the beginning, life is to be found all over the universe on every planet. And this is not the conclusion of our science nowadays. It is not the conclusion. Conclusion of science is, as we are now, that the universe is completely empty, is vacant. Somehow by chance, this small planet, under special conditions, is like a very small island in a big desert, and there is life here. That is a conclusion of science. But in the scriptures it is said, in the Bhagavatam it is said, the universe is full of living entities. What a contradiction. It's a contradiction, no? The problem is, we are here on this island, in the earth, and we have no capacity to find out what is right. You cannot go to the rest of the other parts of the universe to find out are there living entities or not. The scientists say no, they have not gone there either, but they have telescopes and the imagination. We all have imagination, yeah, but they have science also. They have telescopes and they have their, I don't know, how do you call them, the satellites, the flying objects that go there, investigate, take photos. The conclusion is no life anywhere. So Prabhupada says they are rascals. And we remain with a problem to prove it. That they are rascals, not us. Because they are saying we are the rascals. I mean, they don't care much about the Hare Krishnas because we are seemingly small, insignificant movement for them. But, yeah. So what are Srila Prabhupada's arguments here? Scriptures, yeah. He doesn't say here specifically, but of course, in general, that is the argument. That is Prabhupada's general argument of the Acharyas. Who do you believe in? The scientists who change their opinion every 10 minutes? They find out something new. They are ignorant. They don't know even who they are themselves. We don't know who we are. Sometimes Prabhupada says such drastic comments like, they only know the womb of their mother. That's what you know. More you don't know, because you know a little bit of your surroundings, no? What you can see, perceive with your eyes, with your nose, with the tongue, with the ears, touch. Then we have the mind and a little bit of intelligence, whatever God allows, to understand what's going on. But it is not much what we can understand. We don't understand even our own body very well. Somehow we can use it. We have learned to use it. With the help of so many living entities, we are using the body, the demigods, the worms, the bacteria inside. But really we are not the Lord, even the controller of our body very much. That is an illusion. That is the basic quality of this world is to put the spirit soul, which is pure consciousness, full of knowledge and bliss, originally, puts the spirit soul in complete ignorance about its own identity and its relationship with everything. What to speak of this vast universe? What to speak of that? So much illusion is there, so much covering, so much maya that blocks our knowledge, even about ourselves. What to speak about what is around. So we need to rely on an external source for knowledge, which is about the universe. You have no chance. We have no chance, none of us, to check what the scientists see in the satellites. You have to believe them. So it's on the base of trust, actually. You cannot find out with your own tools that you have. It's a question of faith. So everyone can decide if they put their faith in the Srimad Bhagavatam or in our science, modern science. You can choose. You have no other way to find out. And from my personal opinion or experience, I can say the result of trusting modern education and science is misery. My personal experience. And the result of studying Srimad Bhagavatam and getting the vision of Srimad Bhagavatam is bliss. So, my choice is quite easy in this regard. You have any comments or questions on that? There were some other points here also, if you want to talk about them. Yeah.
Хотелось бы обсудить одну деталь.
I would like to discuss one detail.
Шрила Прабхупада говорил,
Prabhupada said
что мы не догматики слепой веры.
that we don't have blind faith and we are not dogmatic.
Что это научное знание.
That this kind of knowledge is scientific
Практическое знание.
and very practical.
Как можно объяснить эту вещь?
How this thing can be explained.
Также вспоминается одна история Шрилы Прабхупады.
I also remember one story about Srila Prabhupada.
Когда он в узком кругу старших учеников начал задавать вопросы.
When he started asking his senior disciples different questions.
Почему вы верите, что Кришна это Бог?
Why do you believe that Krishna is God?
Ну как, Шрила Прабхупада, вы же сказали, что Кришна.
And they answered, well, why? Because Srila Prabhupada, you told us this.
Да мало ли что я сказал.
And he said, what does it matter what I said?
Я просто старик,
I'm just, insignificant old
который
man,
может выжить из ума.
and I can become, crazy or mad.
И тогда они сказали,
And then they replied,
ну Шрила Прабхупада,
well, Srila Prabhupada.
ну Бхагавад-гита говорит о том, что Кришна это Бог.
But Bhagavad Gita says that Krishna is God.
Что такое Бхагавад-гита?
And he asked, okay, and what is Bhagavad
Это
Gita?
просто книга.
It's just a book,
И ученики,
And disciples, they were depressed,
они не смогли найти ответ.
They couldn't find the answer.
И тогда он сказал,
And then he said,
это должно быть вашим живым личным опытом осознания связи с Богом.
and Srila Prabhupada answered that it must be your own personal experience and realization that Krishna is the God and that you have a connection with Him.
И тогда у вас будет настоящая вера.
And then you will have the real faith in that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that is actually the next level, the real thing. It's not the real thing, but it's very important also. We have said it's faith. You can put your faith on one side, on the other side. You can also see the personal result in you. I was quoting my example. Why my faith is in the Bhagavatam, because of my personal experience. But then, if possible, if we have sufficient intelligence and we have to work on it, if we don't have it, to get it, or we turn to others who have this intelligence to discuss. There have to be arguments, logical arguments, also for ourselves to protect us, because otherwise the other side comes with their logical arguments and we have to know why they are wrong, and we have to present the real logic, and also to convince others, to convince the whole world. And this is what the acharyas are doing. This is what the books are for, full of knowledge and intelligent argumentation also. And we have to learn these things to follow the logic and also think about it ourselves. So it makes sense for us. Is experience, personal experience, most important? That's what will be convincing to you. If someone tells you this is a very nice dish, but for you it tastes war, that will not be your selection for your next meal. Even everyone is saying, wow, it's so wonderful. You say, well, I prefer another thing. Personal experience is most important. Also, because in the end, spiritual science is not, how to say, the spiritual truth is not a thing of argumentation. We can talk about all logic, why God has to exist, why he cannot exist, why the universe should be full of living entities or not, living entities are everywhere or not. So many details, we can discuss it, and there are arguments for that. And I have just said it's very important to know these arguments, to be convinced intelligently, by our intelligence, to not blind faith, not go into blind faith, but into reasonable faith. Faith is still there, but it has to be reasonable. It's not just cold reason, logic, without sentiment, without faith. Faith is still there, but it has to be reasonable. But in the end, all the argumentation is not sufficient. You need personal experience. And this personal experience comes by applying the knowledge with full strength, with all your energy, with all your conviction, with all the means you have. Apply the knowledge, apply the process. But in order to do that, in order to have this faith that gives you that strength, you need to be convinced also logically to have that strength. Therefore, we need to discuss the things. We haven't really gone into a discussion, logical discussion, why the universe has to be full of living entities, why the Bhagavatam is right, the scientists are wrong. We haven't got into that discussion, but that's a very important point. But in the end, you will have to see. You need to see. You need to open your eyes, your spiritual vision, to see the truth. Experience. No, that is what you are going to say, right? So, if you are a scientist or you have sufficient intelligence, get into the arguments. Why God exists. Why Krishna is God. And everything else, also about the universe. Get into argumentation and let us talk about it. This book is full of this, because Srila Prabhupada was doing it all the time. All the time. All the time. It's not sufficient to I believe Krishna is God because you say it, because Krishna says it himself in the Bhagavad Gita. More, deeper. Why? You have to understand the why. Any comments?
He doesn't say he's God.
Krishna doesn't say he's God.
said he is the he knows the past, present, and future.
Yes.
And he is Ishvara. He doesn't say.
Ishvara is God or not?
He doesn't say he is God.
And he doesn't also say he's Ishvara. I think I'm not
he
sure.
does-
He says
doesn't
in the
say
heart.
that.
No? Yeah. So Lilamrita is saying Krishna doesn't say he's God in the Bhagavad Gita. Do you agree? Yeah.
Матаджи напомнила одну занимательную, глубокую, веселую, интересную игру. Игру, когда я жил в Брамачари Ашраме.
She reminded me one very funny, interesting, engaging game when I was living as brahmachari.
Брамачари Ашраме, Украина, Киев.
In the brahmachari ashram in Kiev, in Ukraine.
Мы делились группами.
We divided into two groups.
Одни принимали сторону имперсоналистов,
One group was taking the side of
а другие персоналистов.
and the other was the opposite.
И с позиции шастр пытались доказать.
And we tried to prove different sides.
То ли Кришна Бог, то ли Кришна.
Is Krishna God or not?
Что-то.
Or he is something impersonal.
И не всегда персоналисты выигрывают.
And personalists didn't win all the time, actually, in this game.
Yeah, actually Krishna says he is God in the Bhagavad Gita. It starts in the 4th chapter. He starts revealing that he is the Supreme Lord, everything comes from him, and he continues throughout the Bhagavad Gita. There are whole chapters dedicated where Krishna's conclusion is that he is the Supreme Lord. Chapter 15, for example, Purushottama. Yeah, anyway. He says, but Srila Prabhupada says Bhagavad Gita is only a book. Of course, he says it in that moment because he wants something more. Just saying, well, you say, or this say, your own conviction, your own understanding. But on other occasions, Srila Prabhupada doesn't say Bhagavad Gita is just a book, it's a special book. It's spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's spoken by Krishna, who is the Supreme God. Otherwise, this book doesn't have any value, or not a special value. You study Bhagavad Gita and you think, well, it's just another book. It can be right, it can be wrong. That is not exactly the same as reading the Bhagavad Gita as God's words. That is a huge difference. So Bhagavad Gita is a very special book. These are God's words. Yeah. You wanted to say something?
No, I was just wanting to say that he mentioned that he creates the universe and annihilates it. And
yes.
So many references.
For example.
He's got.
Yeah, many. Okay, shall we go? Yeah.
Даже показывать ему определенную вселенскую форму, чтобы можно было и других убедить, кто слушает.
How can I put a mark here for the next reader? I stopped here. Okay. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 From 5th canto. And the 5th canto is especially about the topic of the universe, what's going on in the universe, on the different planets. So today is verse 20. Chapter 8?
Yeah.
Verse 20, 19, 20. And you have the verse there, right? So, it's again not a verse, but a sentence. I'm going to read word for word first. Api, sweet, akrita, sukritam, agatya, mam, sukayishyati, arinya, raja, kumaro, vida, ruchira, dashaniya, nija, mriga, dharaka, vinodair, asantosham, swanam, apanudan. So here comes a story with a mriga dharaka. I'll read the whole verse, sentence. Api sveta krita sukritam agatyamam sukayishyati harina raja kumaro vivita ruchira dashaneya nijamriga dharaka vinodai asantosham swanam apanodan. Anyone wants to read?
Api sweet akra shukritam agatya mam sukya yishyati harina raja kumaro vividaha ruchira darshaniya nija mriga dharaka vinodair asantosham swanam apanudam.
Enough or more? Api sweet, whether it will, akrita sukritam, who has never executed any pious activities, agatya, coming back, mam, to me, sukayishyati, give pleasure, harinya raja kumara, the deer who was just like a prince, because of my taking care of it exactly like a son. Vivida, various, ruchira, very pleasing, dashaniya, to be seen, nija, own, mrigadaraka, befitting the calf of the deer, vinodai, by pleasing activities, asantosham, the unhappiness, swanam, of his own kind, apanudan, driving away. Translation: that deer is exactly like a prince. When will it return? When will it again display its personal activities, which are so pleasing? When will it again pacify a wounded heart like mine? I certainly must have no pious assets, otherwise the deer would have returned by now. Purport: out of strong affection, the king accepted the small deer as if it were a prince. This is called moha. Due to his anxiety over the deer's absence, the king addressed the animal as though it were his son. Out of affection, anyone can be addressed as anything. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshomilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So a little bit of background of this verse. We are studying the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and in this canto there is a story of Maharaj Bharata, the last 3 lives of Maharaj Bharata, who was a great personality, the son, the eldest son of an incarnation of God, Lord Rishabdev. And Lord Rishabdev, and while addressing his sons, he had 100 sons, all very exalted personalities, he said Bharata is the best, the most exalted, the most advanced. So he was a king of the earth. This planet is known as Bharata, Bharatavasha, because of Bharata Maharaj. He gave his name, or people identified the planet with this very important king. And at the end of his life, he renounced everything, his beautiful wife, his children, his kingdom, his palace, his prowess, people adoring him. And he went alone to the forest to fully dedicate himself to the worship of the Supreme Lord. And he was on the level of bhava. It is said, you might know that bhava is almost prema, almost complete love of God, almost perfection, the highest development of consciousness of the soul, very difficult to achieve. So bhava is almost that. The quality of bhava is the same as prema. It's purely spiritual. But it's not as dense, we could say, as prema. Dense.
Can you say in German?
Dicht.
Dicht.
Yeah.
No, очень близко.
We could say intensive. A bit less intensive. But the quality is the same. The love, the bhava, the feeling is the same. Almost perfection. And here, Bharata Maharaj, in the forest, having renounced everything, worshipping only the Supreme Lord from morning to evening and during the night also, he falls in love with a little deer. And Prabhupada says this is called moha. It's called moha. The potency of the material world is to put us into moha, forgetting our own identity, forgetting the most lovable object in existence, the source of everything, the Supreme Lord, and putting our affection, our love on something that is not existent, maya or moha. Identifying ourselves with our body and others with their body. So, we don't see the soul anymore. We don't see the existence of the soul in others. We don't identify ourselves with being a soul. And with the outer appearance, the body and the state of mind and whatever is there, subtle and gross material bodies, we identify a person with that, which is, as Krishna says, first teaching of the Bhagavad Gita is these are just cloth, temporary cloth. So I'm wearing this cloth, not this, but everything, body, my face, my nose, my mind, this is just cloth. It's a machine I'm in. I'm the soul inside, and everyone else also. So this deer, that is just the body, and its behavior. A small deer is very cute, is very enchanting in its behavior, especially in this situation. That small deer, its mother died. In the moment the deer was born, the mother died and the deer had no shelter. So Maharaj Bharata, being a devotee, his heart full of love for Krishna and all living entities, he felt for the poor deer and he wanted to take care of it, protect the deer who has just lost its mother. But then he fell in love, he got affection for the deer beyond the existence of the soul. The bodily aspects, the external aspects, the temporary things, that is what is putting us into illusion. So that is natural for a conditioned soul. Affection is also natural, even more natural for a liberated soul. When you are liberated, or the more liberated you get, more affection, more love develops. You get a very soft heart, very soft. You feel for others. You feel God's presence, Krishna's presence, and the presence of his internal energy. You feel it everywhere. Your heart is full of love and affection. That is the nature of the pure soul. But it has to be, as long as we are in the material world, this has to be protected from moha, from illusion, putting it on something false. We should not put our love on the dress, but on the person. If you love someone, I'm putting now material example, if you love someone, your husband, your wife, your father, mother, your children, friends, lover, whoever, a dog also, animals are not excluded, or if you have a deer, if you happen to live in the forest, whatever. The soul is a person. The soul is lovable. The body is not lovable. The body seems to be lovable because of the presence of the soul. The movement of the body, the facial expression, everything that you love is an expression of the soul. When the soul goes out of that body, the body is dead. It's just a lump of matter. It doesn't have any relevance. It has a temporary relevance only for the expression of the soul. But because of our conditioned state, because of our bewildered consciousness, we think these bodily expressions, mental expressions, psychological expressions, that is the soul itself. It is not. The soul is there, otherwise these expressions wouldn't be there. But what you can see, what you perceive with your material senses is not the soul. The soul is behind it. The soul is not female or male or young or old or beautiful or ugly or an animal, a dangerous animal, an ugly animal, a beautiful cute animal, my dog, the neighbor's dog, the attacking. No. It's not all this. It's a soul like you. So our tendency is, and we have to be aware of that, to get into this moha, into this illusion, identifying the soul with the body, which is not the case. So Maharaj Bharata, even being very exalted, it happened to him also because of affection. And the thing is, I've mentioned that before, that affection is natural. Affection is not to be rejected. Don't become cold, neutral. There are many instructions in the scriptures, also in the Bhagavad Gita, which emphasizes neutrality. Neutrality. To be equiposed. No feelings. No emotions. That might be helpful practice under certain circumstances or in a certain stage. Neutrality. To get out of this Maya affection. But the real thing is, it's not about killing your feelings. It's not about killing your affection. Just the opposite. And that is what is Bhakti all about. Increase affection unlimitedly to the whole universe, beyond the universe, by putting your affection on the essence, on that what is living, and that what can reciprocate with your affection. And the essence of the essence of the essence is God. That's if we neglect Krishna, the essence of everything, the source of everything, if we don't put our affection and love on him, then our affection misses the point and it will be misdirected. That's exactly what happened to Bharata. He already put his affection on Krishna. But then somehow by circumstance, he took his affection away from Krishna. He neglected his practice. He was in the forest, as I said before, 24 hours serving God, thinking of God, worshipping God. Then the deer came and he kind of continued his practice, but his heart wasn't there anymore. His heart was with the deer. He transferred it to the deer. And not even the soul of the deer. So that wouldn't have been a problem, because if you see the soul, you see it's part of Krishna. Krishna is not out of the picture. But if you put your affection, your attention only on external appearance, on bodily appearance, then Krishna goes out of that picture, because that is Maya. This curtain that Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that cuts our vision to Krishna, is again there. That happened to Bharata Maharaj, putting his affection on a beautiful, cute deer and neglecting his practice. A devotee can do all kinds of things. I'm not saying everything, but many things. Provided that the center of his or her attention is and remains in Krishna. That's what Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, that my devotee is doing all kinds of activities. But whatever you do, be always conscious of me. Always think of me, worship me, and at the same time go about all your activities. And if you do that, you will overcome all obstacles in life and you will reach me in the end. So, as a devotee, we can be very practical in life. We can do all kinds of things. But Krishna has to be in the center. And if something takes away our attention and attraction for Krishna, we have to be careful, because that is the beginning of moha. We will fall into illusion again. It happens very quickly. Center of attention, of attraction has to be Krishna. That's why we need a sadhana. When you live in the temple, and if you don't live in the temple, it's the same thing, it's just more difficult. But when you live in the temple, from the beginning of the day, activities are centered all around Krishna. If you get up early, go to Mangal Artik, prayers, singing, personal recitation of the Maha Mantra, and then more singing and Bhagavatam class and Prasadam. The first 5-6 hours of the day are so much focused on Krishna already that you will have the strength for the rest of the day, with more efforts of course, but with other activities. Krishna still remains the center of your attention. But if you neglect your sadhana, then it's not the same strength anymore. And more easily you may be attracted by things that take you away from Krishna. So this is the meaning of the story of Maharaj Bharata, that even you think you are very advanced, or you are very advanced already, don't neglect your spiritual practice. Actually, as life continues, you should increase your spiritual practice. You should go deeper, better quality. If you can, also more quantity. That is not always possible in sadhana. If you are working with family and children, and you might have so many duties, so you may not expand your spiritual activities, your sadhana, by quantity, but it has to be a minimum, and that minimum of practice has to be very strong, intense, quality. And if you are free, if you are vanaprastha already, or brahmachari, or sannyasi, or temple devotee, you can dedicate all day for sadhana, spiritual practices, but also go for quality, intensity. You can be also engaged in Krishna consciousness all day, but without quality. And I was about to say it's a waste of time, but that's not true. It is also good, but you can make better use of it. Of course, we don't have the strength to focus very strongly 24 hours on Krishna. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but in our state now, we can't. When we come to the state of bhava or prema, we can, because it becomes natural for us. But before, we have limited strength of attention, of concentration, of dedication. But whatever you have, strength, you put it on the most intense spiritual practice to connect with Krishna every day. That is a commitment we should make, and that will give us so strong and intense spiritual progress. And it has been, it has been proven, scientifically proven, that a healthy adult human being is able to focus for 2 hours, to be concentrated, quite concentrated for 2 hours in a day. So that those 2 hours should go in the most intense spiritual practice. And such a coincidence, Srila Prabhupada has prescribed for sincere devotees to chant 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra every day, which is about 2 hours. So use this concentration that you have, this intensity, is a recommendation, on these 2 hours where you chant your 16 rounds, where you do your japa. That is the best use of your capacity, of your energy. Any questions or comments? Yes?
The last point that you mentioned is actually very important, and I also, from my personal experience, it's a material consideration, but I remember whenever I chanted my rounds more attentively than usual, in a more concentrated way, on that day everything else was also much more concentrated. My word, anything you do is much more concentrated. And if your japa is not concentrated, then anything you do during the day is also not concentrated. This is my personal experience.
Thank you.
Бытует мнение, что Махарадж Бхарата сошел с пути преданного служения, потому что у него не было саду санги.
So there is an opinion that Maharaja Bharata deviated from the path of spiritual knowledge because he didn't have sadhusanga in the forest.
Но так как он уже принял ванапрастху, не должно было быть никакой садхусанги.
But he actually took vanaprastha, so it wasn't supposed that he should have any sadhusanga.
И как вы это абсолютно верно заметили,
and as you very rightly said,
ему просто нужно было делать заботиться об этом олененке для Бога, не для себя лично.
He should have cared about this deer for the Lord, not for himself.
Но он начал заботиться о нем и это делал как бы для себя и стал наслаждать свои чувства.
But he started doing it for himself to gratify his senses.
И сразу же Майя его поймала.
And Maya caught him immediately.
Оказался, так сказать, на уровне материальной концепции тела.
And he got to this material conception of the body.
Поэтому нам надо быть очень осторожными. не наслаждать свои чувства.
So we have to be really careful and not to gratify our senses.
А все, что мы делаем, это для Господа.
So
Дело для Его удовлетворения.
So everything we do, we should do it for the satisfaction of the Lord.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is, this thing that happened to Bharata Maharaj, or the whole story of love and affection, is not so easy. It's not so easy to differentiate, as you have said. If you take care of someone who is in a body, it's very difficult to differentiate. Do I do this selflessly for that person, for Krishna's pleasure, taking care of that soul, or it's also pleasing for me? So this is a thing that for conditioned soul it's very difficult to differentiate between love and lust. It seems to be so similar, although it is opposite, but it seems to be so similar. Like someone who is a conditioned soul without any spiritual practice or without any spiritual insight, they think that sexual love is actually love. It's selfless. I feel love by doing this activity. Although it is, because it's so sensual and it's such a strong moha, such a strong maya, bodily thing that is so attractive and pleasing and also bewildering for the mind and the senses, that, but still you think it's love. Maybe there's some love inside, but that is very small. It's completely mixed up with just bodily and mental pleasure. And the pleasure is a dominating thing. And that's why it's so degrading. But the soul, the conditioned soul, thinks this is love also. My point, what I want to say with that, is very difficult to differentiate. And as devotees, it's part of our practice also. That's why after Brahmachari Ashram comes Kriyastha Ashram, where you are put into all these situations with husband, wife, children, family, and you are not supposed to be neutral to them. That is not the practice. You practice affection and love and care and everything, but in the right way, putting Krishna into the center, having a sadhana, and seeing these souls as Krishna's parts, which is easier when they also behave like devotees. Then it's easier, but also not guaranteed. You will be in Maya once in a while, or most of the time, whatever, but if you keep your practice with intensity, especially if you use the 2 hours of strength you have every day focused on your japa, then you will advance very quickly in Krishna consciousness. Such a strength we can get from practicing our japa. Many things can be said of that, how to practice japa in the best possible way, but the thing is, put all your heart, all your intensity into it every day. Really take it as the most important activity of the day. That's what I wanted to say. Untitled Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Huh?
Then Krishna is God.
Why?
Then you're speaking about chanting.
Then yeah, you realize, yeah, because I'm chanting Krishna's name and I get so much enlightenment.